Welcome to Evolving Into Her. I'm Ashley Hope, and this is your weekly check-in to get out of your head, into your body, and back into alignment with the version of you who's already living the vision. So grab your favorite cup of tea, settle in, and let's get into the show. Hey there, welcome back to Evolving Into Her. I'm your host, Ashley Hope, and if this is your first time here, welcome, friend. This is a podcast where we talk about what it actually takes to bridge the gap between who you are now and who you are becoming. We're talking about building that expansive, juicy, fulfilling life, not just knowing what you need to do, but actually becoming the woman who lives it. If you're loving what you're hearing, please do me a favor really quick. Head over to Apple and or Spotify and please leave me a rating. It takes like 2 seconds. And per usual, it helps more women find this podcast and step into their next level right alongside you. Another thing, before we jump in, I want to remind you about the practice. It's a free weekly journaling series that drops in your inbox every Sunday evening. You just get one intentional prompt to help you do the deeper work of becoming her and to help you process, integrate, and step into your next level. January, we focused on safety, and in February, we're focusing on nervous system regulation. So make sure you sign up so you receive those emails. Per usual, you can sign up by tapping the link in the show notes. Okay, so today's topic, it is a good one. It is juicy. And I noticed that when I have conversation with women about who she's becoming, about the woman she's stepping into, about the life she's creating, almost every time there's something in there about secure, conscious, healthy love. Like if you think about it, when you think about the woman you're becoming, I'm sure something about your career or finances and love is in there too. And I've only had maybe 2 or 3 podcast episodes about love, but I haven't really touched too much on the topic. But that is changing this year. If you've been in my ecosystem for any amount of time, you know I love talking about love and money, the money and the honey. Okay, I could talk about these topics endlessly. So I'm really excited to bring more of these conversations to the podcast because that's a huge part of becoming her too. It all fits into the framework of evolving into her. So today we're talking about why you keep choosing the same person in a different body, girl. And if you're here, I have a feeling you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've dated different people. They may have had different names, different faces, maybe even different circumstances, but somehow the dynamic feels eerily familiar. The hot and cold, the emotional unavailability, the anxious chase, the patterns where you're giving more than you're receiving. And you might be sitting here thinking, why do I keep doing this? I know better. I can see the red flags now. So why do I keep on ending up here? And here's what I want you to understand, friend. It's not about willpower. It's not about you being more smart or more aware or knowing better. Your nervous system is wired to seek out what's familiar, what feels familiar, even when the familiar feels terrible. And until you do the deeper work to rewire that, you're going to keep choosing the same love in a different package, unfortunately. So today we're diving into the nervous system piece, the subconscious programming, and the identity work that actually breaks the pattern. Juicy, juicy, juicy stuff. So grab something you can sip slow and let's get into the show. Okay, so let me explain exactly what's happening in your body when you meet someone new. So let's say you meet a guy, okay, and he's consistent, he texts back, he makes plans, he follows through, he's emotionally available and genuinely interested in you. And on paper, this is everything you've been saying you want. Notice the emphasis on saying, okay? But something feels off. And you can't quite put your finger on it, but there's no spark. It feels boring. It feels too easy. You might even find yourself nitpicking. You know, girl, he's too available. He's too eager. He's a little thirsty. Something about him just doesn't excite you. I'm sure we've all experienced this. Now, let's say you meet a different guy. He's charming, but he's a little inconsistent. He pulls you in, then he pulls back. You're not quite sure where you stand. You find yourself checking your phone, wondering when he'll reach out. And there's this charge there, this electricity, this spark, this feeling of, I need to figure this out. I need to win him over. Now, which one feels more exciting? Which one are you more drawn to? And if you're honest, probably the second one, historically anyway. And here's why. Your nervous system is designed to recognize what's familiar as safe, even if familiar is actually unsafe, even if familiar actually isn't what's best for you, even if familiar is not in alignment with who you're becoming. And when you grow up with inconsistent love, maybe you had a parent who was sometimes present and sometimes distant, sometimes loving and sometimes cold. Your nervous system learned to be on high alert. It learned to scan for signs of approval. It learned that love requires vigilance and effort and strategy and monitoring. So when you meet someone who's consistent and available, your nervous system doesn't recognize it. It doesn't feel like love because love to your nervous system has always come with a little splash of anxiety, with a little razzle dazzle of anxiety. Love has always required you to work for it, to earn it, to chase it down. But when you meet someone who's hot and cold, your nervous system goes, ooh, I know this. This feels familiar. This is what love feels like. And it gets activated. Your body lights up because this feels like home, even though home isn't healthy. And that's why the unavailable guy feels like there's a spark, and the available guy sometimes feels boring. And it's not due to chemistry, it's the familiarity. So let's go deeper into the subconscious piece, okay? Because this is where the real programming lives. You have this subconscious blueprint for what love looks like, okay? This blueprint was created when you were young, when you were a little girl, and it was based on what you observed and you experienced. So this blueprint is running the show in your adult relationships, whether you realize it or not. And so I'm gonna give you some examples of what these blueprints might look like. One example, love is something I have to earn. And if you learn that love was conditional, that you get attention and affection when you were good, when you performed, when you made others happy, then your subconscious blueprint says, I'm only worthy of love when I'm proving my worth. So you're attracted to people who make you work for it because that confirms your blueprint. The guy who loves you just for being you, your subconscious doesn't trust that. It feels like a trick. It feels like it can't be real. Another blueprint that some of you might resonate with, love means losing myself. So if you grew up in an environment where boundaries weren't respected, where your needs came second, where you had to take care of others' emotions, then your subconscious blueprint says, love means I disappear. It means I have to shrink myself. Love means I abandon myself. So you're attracted to people who are emotionally unavailable or distant because that confirms your blueprint. Again, it gives you space. It lets you stay in control. That person who wants real intimacy, that feels suffocating because intimacy in your blueprint means losing yourself. Another blueprint that we may have adopted, love is unpredictable and I have to stay on guard. So if you grew up with a parent who's inconsistent, loving one moment, cold the next, then your subconscious blueprint says, I'm only safe when I'm vigilant. I'm only safe when I can predict and manage the unpredictability. So you're attracted to people who are inconsistent because that confirms your blueprint. It keeps you in the familiar zone of anxiety and hypervigilance. The person who's steady and predictable, girl, your nervous system doesn't know what to do with that. It almost feels like more anxiety provoking because you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. And these aren't all of them, but these are just a few examples. And these blueprints are so powerful because they operate beneath your subconscious awareness. You can consciously say, I want a healthy relationship. But if your subconscious says love is pain, or love is earned, or love is unpredictable, guess which one wins? The subconscious every single time. And I also want to talk about identity because this is the deepest layer. And it's not just that your nervous system seeks familiarity. It's not just that your subconscious has a blueprint, it's that you have an identity, a self concept around who you are in relationships. So maybe you're the woman who fixes broken men. Girl, ghetto, stop that now. That is not just a pattern, that's an identity. And you believe, I'm the one who sees potential. I'm the one who loves people into their best selves. I'm the one who doesn't give up. Or maybe you're the woman who's independent and doesn't need anyone. That used to be me, a strong Black woman, heavily into my masculine. That independence is not just a boundary, that's an identity. And you believe, I'm the one who handles everything alone. I can do this by myself. I'm the one who doesn't burden others. I'm the one who stays in control. I got this. Or maybe you're the woman who's too much. That's not just an insecurity, that's an identity. And there's something in you that really believes, I'm overwhelming, I'm needy, I am anxious, I'm the one who has to tone myself down to be loved. And these identities were formed when you were young as survival mechanism. The girl who learned to monitor or fix her parents' moods, she kept the peace. She felt useful, right? She had some sense of control. The girl who learned to be independent, she protected herself from disappointment. The girl who learned that she was too much, she tried to make herself smaller and dim her light to be acceptable. But here's the problem, okay? These identities are still choosing your relationships for you today. If your identity is, I'm the fixer, you're going to be attracted to broken men, girl. And you don't consciously want a project. You don't consciously want a man you have to fix, a build-a-bear. You just need to feel valuable in love. And fixing is the only way you know how. A healthy whole man does not need you in the same way. And if he doesn't need you, then what's your role? What do you bring to the table? Who are you in that relationship if you aren't the fixer? If your identity is I'm the independent one, you're going to be attracted to unavailable men, girl. Distance is the only way you feel safe. A man who wants real partnership requires vulnerability. It requires interdependence. It requires letting someone in. And that threatens your identity of being the one who doesn't need anyone. Sister soldier, okay? If your identity is, I'm too much, you're going to be attracted to men who make you feel like you have to shrink, like you have to dim your light. You don't consciously want to be diminished. You're just choosing what confirms what you already believe about yourself. A man who fully embraces you, who wants all of you just as you are, that creates cognitive dissonance. Your brain literally can't make sense of it. It can't compute it. And your mind goes, wait, this doesn't match my identity. Something must be wrong here. So you don't just keep choosing the same person. You keep choosing the person who confirms the identity you have about yourself in relationships. Does that make sense? All right. So now we're going to talk about breaking this pattern. Okay. How do you actually break it? How do you stop choosing the same person in a different body? And I'm going to tell you, what you've been doing probably isn't working. So making a list of green flags and forcing yourself to date guys who check the boxes, girl, that's not going to work. Okay. Trying harder to avoid red flags, that's not going to work either. That's why you can watch all of the reels and the videos about the narcissist and the red flags and avoid this type of man. And don't let this man play you. Don't let this man treat you like such and such. That doesn't really change your life. It just makes you more hyper vigilant. It doesn't work by itself. It's cool to be aware, but when you're just operating from that awareness, looking for the danger, looking for the harm, your mind is just trained to lead you in that direction. So these are conscious strategies and they are effective to a point, but what we're dealing with here is subconscious programming and nervous system wiring. So note-taking girlies, this is your cue. Grab your handy dandy notebook for this, okay? And I'm gonna give you 3 things that you can do to rewire. First, you gotta regulate your nervous system. You have to teach your body that safe can feel like home. That calm can feel like love. That consistency isn't boring. It's actually what you've been craving all along. So this means when you meet someone who's available and your body says, there's no spark here, you don't just immediately dismiss them, okay? Now look, sometimes you're just not attracted to someone. I get that, and that's completely valid. But pause first. Notice what's happening. Ask yourself, is this genuinely not a match? Am I genuinely not attracted to this person? Or is my nervous system not recognizing safety as familiarity? Just give it some time. Go on a second date, maybe a third, and let yourself sit in the discomfort of feeling something different. And really see if attraction can grow when you're not being flooded with anxiety chemicals that you've mistaken for chemistry. Clock it. Okay. This also means when you meet someone who's unavailable and your body says, yes, this is it, girl, I'm going to need you to pause. All right. And I want you to notice, oh, this is my nervous system recognizing what's familiar. But familiar doesn't necessarily mean good. Familiar doesn't mean aligned. Familiar doesn't mean healthy. And you practice not following that pull, that magnetism, not mistaking that for chemistry. Okay. So you do the breath work, you do the somatic practices, you self-soothe, you train your body to feel safe and secure love, even though it's unfamiliar. Okay. Number 2, reprogram your subconscious blueprint. Girl, you have to rewire those deep beliefs about what love is and what you're worthy of. If your blueprint says I have to earn love, you need to reprogram it. Okay. Reprogram it to I am worthy of love just for existing. Love is not something I have to earn. It's something I receive. If your blueprint says love means losing myself, you can reprogram it to I can be fully myself and deeply loved. Intimacy expands me. It does not diminish me. If your blueprint says love is unpredictable, you reprogram it to I am safe in consistency. Steady love is real love. You do this through visualization. You see yourself in healthy love and let your subconscious accept it as possible, accept it as truth. You can do this through repetition. This means speaking these new truths until your subconscious believes them. You can do this through working with someone like a coach or a therapist who can help you access those deeper layers and shift them at the root. And the third thing, you need to shift your identity. Work on your self-concept. This is the deepest work. You really just have to become a different version of yourself in relationships. If you've been the fixer, you have to become the woman who receives, the woman who's valued for who she is, not what she does, the woman who could witness someone else's journey without taking responsibility for it, without trying to save that man. If you've been the independent one, you have to become the woman who's interdependent, the woman who can ask for help, who can receive, who can lean into her feminine energy and allow someone to meet her there. If you've been the one who's been too much, you have to become the woman who's fully expressed, the woman who takes up space unapologetically, the woman who knows that the right person won't find her overwhelming. They'll find her magnetic and they'll love you to pieces. This is the embodiment work, friends. You practice being this new version of yourself, okay? And you make decisions from this identity. You show up in relationships from this identity, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it feels unfamiliar, even when every part of you wants to go back to the old pattern. Okay. And here's what happens when you do this work, like really do it, not just understand it intellectually and read the books and listen to the podcasts and take the notes, but embody it in your nervous system, your subconscious, and your identity. You eventually stop being attracted to the same type of person because the pull, that magnetic pull, that chemistry, it genuinely isn't there anymore. And I'm going to give you a brief story, and I have permission to share this, but I worked with a woman who kept choosing men who were great in the beginning, and then they just were unavailable out of nowhere. I'm sure that story sounds familiar to a lot of you. Like they show up hard at first and then slowly start pulling back. Always had an excuse, always had something else going on. And she'd find herself in this loop of trying to get back to how it was in the beginning, trying to figure out what changed, what she did wrong. And after doing this work for a while, the nervous system regulation, shifting those subconscious beliefs, embodying a new identity, she started dating again. And she met someone who was just steady, who was calm. He showed up when he said he would. He didn't play the mind games. He didn't do this anxious, avoidant chase and pull. He was proactive. He was intentional. He wanted to actually build something with her. And she said to me, Ashley, I keep waiting for the anxiety to kick in. I keep waiting to feel like I need to do something to keep his interest, but I don't. I just feel calm. I feel good. Like I can breathe, like I can just be. And we also did a cord cutting and some energy healing. And of course, when you do a cord cutting, baby, them exes, them old people, they be coming right back. They can feel when you sever the connection energetically. So one of her old situations hit her up. And you know the type, the hey stranger text at 10 p.m. And before we started working together, that would have her heart racing, okay? Wondering if this was finally going to be different. But this time she looked at that text and she just felt exhausted. She could see the whole movie. She knew how this was going to play out. The inconsistency, the breadcrumbing, the confusion, all the things. And she just deleted it. She swiped left. She didn't even need to respond because that version of love didn't feel like love anymore. It didn't feel like connection. It didn't feel like chemistry. It just felt like work. And that is the shift. You don't need to keep choosing the same person because you're not the same person anymore. Your nervous system has learned that safe is home. Your subconscious has a new blueprint for what love looks like. Your identity has shifted to the woman who receives secure, reciprocal, healthy, conscious love. And anything less than that doesn't match who you've become. So friend, if you're listening to this and you're recognizing yourself in these patterns, if you keep choosing the same person in a different body, please hear this. It is not your fault. Please do not judge yourself. Please do not feel shame. Your nervous system is doing exactly what it was designed to do, exactly what it was trained to do. Your subconscious is following the blueprint it was giving. Your identity is operating from what kept you safe as a child. But listen to me, hear me clearly. You are not that child anymore. You are not a little girl anymore. You are not in that household anymore. And you get to do the work to rewire it all. Regulate your nervous system, reprogram your subconscious, shift your identity, become the woman who's available for a different kind of love by becoming it within yourself first. The secure, reciprocal, easeful, conscious love you want is already yours. Let me say this again. The secure, reciprocal, easeful, healthy, conscious love you want, you desire, is already yours. Okay? You just have to become the version of you who's wired to recognize it, to receive it, and baby, to stay in it. Okay? All right, love, that's what I have for you today. If this resonated, please take 2 seconds to leave a rating or review on Apple or Spotify. It helps more women find this podcast and do this work right alongside you. I'll see you next Tuesday where we're getting into why you sabotage right before the breakthrough. Oof, does that sound familiar? So make sure you're subscribed or following the show so you do not miss it. I'm Ashley Hope, and until next time, stay in devotion to your becoming. See you next week. I'm Ashley Hope, and you've been listening to Evolving Into Her. Thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for choosing her, for choosing yourself. And until next time, stay in devotion to your becoming.